In the world, but not of the world. I done levitated, tapped into my higher power and it resonated. Medication ain't real, that's why I never take it. Still eating bacon, hollering out salam alaikum. In partnership with my creator, praying for my haters. Cause they still lost, still waiting on the savior. Chasing paper, doing anything to get it. Trying to prove you real to some niggas in your city, and these girls petty. Everything about them fake. The AI chicks be scamming men on dates. Don't wanna split the bill cause the word men isn't mean you. But if you really break it down and say me and you, we a team like the L.O.
Chill, yeah, we back right here on the pull up, man.
Yeah.
Y'all rocking with y'all boy Ricky Prince, man. I got a special guest in the building today, my boy AG. What up, bro?
What's going on, y'all?
Shit, cool and fool. Hey, go ahead and tell the people who you are and what you got going on, man.
All right. Well, born and raised out of Florida. Mama's from up top New York. My dad's from Michigan, dairy farmer. I grew up in Kissimmee on the beaches all my life. Grew up anything from Gatorland to the rodeos to the carnies, to Miami,
Okay.
Southwest 3rd Street. I moved up here about 3.5 years ago. I was on a venture trying to get back right on my feet after doing a little bit of time, from 21 till I was 3 months before I turned 30. Little sit down, so when I didn't see things kind of like panning out down home, I had to call my mom up here and was like, yo, I need to change something up.
Right.
This ain't right, I'm back in prison. I almost did twice within the first 18 months of being home. They didn't prepare me for that, when I went away. So, I got
What you go to prison for?
I had aggravated battery with a deadly weapon. It was a bar fight when I was 21.
Oh.
Watching a basketball game with a good friend of mine, guy rest his soul. Just having a good time, man.
Right.
Paying tab off on somebody's table after we gambled and stuff. And, I thought that was the righteous thing to do was, hey, pay their tab off. They was going to use the money anyways for that.
Right.
And plans were otherwise, I won the situation, but I lost in the long run because I had to go sit down for a while.
Right.
Consequences from past caught up and stuff. So when I got out, I came up here when I seen shit wasn't working. And since I moved up here, it's been nothing but elevation.
That's what's up.
They say when you move out of your hometown, sometimes you can have some of the most purest elevation, but you can't forget where you come from and you can't forget about your people ever.
That's real.
No matter where you go, you know what I mean? So since I've been here, man, I've just been keeping my nose to the grindstone, came out, got to meet you through D and stuff like that, watching the movie, just hanging out, what I mean? And I didn't really realize what it was. I went to Pat Styles movies first, and I didn't realize what this was. I'm just thinking it's a movie, that he didn't tell me. He left it for when we got there. And it's been great because I've been able to connect with so many different people, just the network of people that are up here. My peoples that I grew up around, they all from up this way in Greenwood.
Right.
And, they told me you got to watch out. South Carolina's a Bible Belt, this and that. Well, I learned that my first weekend up here. Liquor stores ain't open on Sundays. But since I've been up here, it's been good. I've been working on little projects. Started my own business. 5 years home now from a 10-year bid that they told me was 45 to life, and I refused that, and manifested something sooner. My mother told me when I was in there, you're going to come home on my birthday, just have faith in God or a higher power of your understanding. I said, yeah, whatever, Ma.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I ain't paid no attention. When I went away, I got my paperwork and everything, get ready to call home, put your numbers in and everything. I'll be dang, my 85% was my mother's birthday on her 50th. So, since I've been home and keeping that in mind after getting back where I need to be right now, it's just been pure elevation, man. I mean, shoot, it landed me right here.
That's what's up. Hey, welcome to G-Bill, brother. Yeah,
I'm saying I need part 2 now.
Facts. Definitely gonna get you in that.
Yeah.
So, as you done evolved and came a long way, do you have any regrets?
Not a single one.
Word.
Not a single regret. I'd do it all over again.
Yeah.
Because I might do it a little bit differently, but it would have to happen because that's what was supposed to happen. Nothing happens where they say by coincidence. I think not. Everything's by grand design, and no matter where your belief and your mindset's at, whether you believe in something or not, everything's a grand design.
Right. Hey, you talking that shit now, my boy. So, what are your hopes for what the future holds?
My hopes for what the future holds. To be an outlet, to be a beacon that people can turn to.
Okay.
Just by me seeing other people get out of where I was at. And, you know, sometimes you got to step over the dead bodies, even if they still breathing. Don't get me wrong. Some people just, it is what it is. A good friend of mine taught me that, when I was inside. He said, sometimes you can't help everybody, but the ones that I can, why not? You know, so that's my hope. My hope is every day that I wake up that I can make one small difference in someone's life around me,
right.
Even in my life, just something that's different that brings an enlightenment.
So when it comes to like spirituality, bro, who or what do you believe in?
I do believe in a higher power, God. You know, there is an ultimate. I also believe that our ancestors lived and they breathed the way they did for many of thousands of years. And, you know, if we go into any cultural aspect, you'll see the extremisms. You'll know what's not good. And then you'll know what is true and what is the guidances that have flourished these cultures, our cultures, for so long that they're not to be forgotten.
Right.
You know, they're to be held in respect. So, you know, I do believe in an ultimate creator, one creator. You know, I ain't create myself. And we have questions about who created that.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's beyond me, I guess, you know, as they say. But every day that I've been awake, and I don't mean just sleep-wise, I mean spiritually awake.
Right.
Spirituals come to you and how they need to. You know, your ancestors' deja vu. Mm-hmm. You know, it's really just an imprint of your ancestors' memories of something they went through already. It may not be exactly that, but it was a similarity.
Right.
So who am I to knock that if my ancestors' DNA can run like that into deja vu? Because that's really what that is. It's a memory imprint, I feel.
Yeah.
Of something that your bloodline has been through.
I get that perspective.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have that feeling sometimes like it's happened before or something in a stressful situation.
Unfinished business.
Unfinished business.
Yeah.
And you're here to finish it.
That's where that karma come in at. Yeah.
Yeah, because karma can be good or bad. It don't matter what you do for that, they say, right?
Right.
You can do good all your life and have bad stuff happen to you.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And you can do bad all your life and have nothing but blessed.
Yep.
And it could be vice versa. It could be screwed up, you know, like it's supposed to be, or whatever they say it's supposed to be. But,
facts.
You know.
So do you believe that a lot of things just happen the way they happen, or do you believe that we do have some type of power over what happens? Or do you think it's about more so one of those things where, to a certain extent?
When life shows up on life's terms, whether you're doing good, whether you're in the streets, whether you're doping, you know, whatever, selling your bodies, whatnot, anything that disgraces the temple of you, I look at it like this. We do have power to an extent. Things happen, right? You know, like in the old story, they call it the folklores, the web weavers, you know, the fates, the sister of fates. They didn't just magically, like, hey, we just thought of this. It's been there.
Right.
You know, some people say it's like that. You know, things happen, but you can alter it, you can change it.
Right.
We see it in the stories. We see it all throughout in Hercules, all that. Mm-hmm. You know? So I do think that things happen by their own because that's the way the world is, the energies.
Right.
You know, because, I mean, the planets are what they are. The pyramids are set up the way they are for what? The constellations. Indeed. The Mayans. You can't tell me in, 3-4 different parts of the world they got similarities, and they might not be exactly, but it's there. The foundations are the same.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
are you a flat earther or a glober?
I don't think we could just fall off the edge. But I do believe there's 4 corners of the earth they talk about.
Indeed.
They talk about axes, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Which represents a sphere, but they talk about 4 corners, which represents a flatness of sort. Right. Depends on which dimension you're coming at it from.
Right. Okay.
Maybe. You know what I mean?
No, I feel that.
It depends. It depends. I mean, I really do believe. I mean, I think it's a spiritual. There's a force. So in force, it's like basketball. When you slam dunk a basketball, it bounces just the way it's supposed to because it's a sphere in its way. And you do a football like that, it ain't gonna do it. It's gonna kind of go every which way.
I think it's a circle at the top, a square at the bottom.
Top, square at the bottom.
I think the dome is where the curvature come in at, kind of like an auditorium.
Facts.
And that's what people feel like.
Why we're so fascinated.
Yeah, but you got to think too. I don't know how tapped in you are with the planet Saturn and its influence on us. But you know, like the cube, the square, the rectangular energy is all trapping energy.
Yeah.
So think about it. From school the jobs, the homes, all we used to are the square-shaped structures.
Yeah.
You don't really see ceilings with curvature no more.
Nope.
To the point that if somebody sees Earth from space, they automatically assume, oh, that means it's a ball, when really the ceiling just curved.
Right.
And you got old buildings that's made like that, but not new ones.
Fact. You know, in Kissimmee, there was a spot that was like, there was houses, futuristic houses that were built. My grandparents had told me about it. They were shut down when I was growing up. They sold tickets out of it and stuff like that on 192
Right.
in Kissimmee.
Okay.
And it was supposed to be the futuristic of getting away from squareness or something that represents a wall or a blockade.
Right.
Because that's what that is. It's a block. It's brick.
And you just said two things, too, that they call people who don't really know shit like that. Blockheads and squares.
Yeah.
Facts.
Facts, man. Facts.
That's crazy, bro. You just cracked another code.
Or it's almost like how it's, I mean, they have TV shows, you know, they say we see it on TV and, you know, they play it in Hollywood because it's happened or it's going to happen or, you know, it's written out in The Simpsons and different stuff, you know, of predictions or whatnot. You know, they all line up together.
Facts.
I mean, they all come together around the way they're supposed to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They go to and from where they need to, and they also come around.
Boy, that cycle is real. Like, you can't get away from the cycle.
Heck yeah, you can't. You
Word.
can't, man.
Let's turn it up a notch.
Let's turn it up a notch.
So, this is, you know, around this time of year, it always be the same subject or topic about tax money. And should men be allowed to get some money from their baby mamas? What's your thought on that situation like that right there?
And this is where you see the guys and the girls are all like, what's he gonna say? I mean, honestly, I'm the oldest of younger siblings, and you know, I have good friends that have children that are great parents, you know, co-parenting together and separate,
Right.
you know, in life. And things weren't always what they were supposed to be, definitely when we were younger. And I always took heed and I paid attention to that. I honestly do believe that if you, both of you, are man enough, woman enough to lay together, do what you need to do to enjoy yourself and care to each other, tend to each other, you know, no matter what, that child shouldn't suffer. You know, because that's what it comes back to. It's not even about who gets what or of that, because there's some men out there that every day they go to work and they're stressing because they know when they get paid, they ain't gonna have nothing but $30, $40. And then there's some women out there that are like that, you know?
Right.
Vice versa. But honestly, I do believe that the other half, like the men, if they put in some work, yeah, of course, man. You gotta have, I mean, how you gonna keep it coming back?
Right.
You know, it's like a nonprofit organization. In order to keep it going, these donations, these things that come in, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I was learning that recently about you know, a good friend of mine going through a lot of stuff, you know, been going through it for years. And he was telling me, he's like, man, you just don't understand. When one have it here, they have it here. He's like, you do what you got to do. You try your best. He's like, you know, he's like, I admit sometimes we get like, fuck, you know, F this. But then we remember, you know, the purpose of it. And as men, we are leaders.
Right.
You know, we're supposed to lead that way unless we didn't have that. And even then, you know, like my dad, you know, I had my pops, you know, blessed. You know, I'm grateful for him. You know, my mother was there too. My mother was smart on the streets. My dad was, you know, chill, relax. So, you know, when they separated growing up and stuff, my pops, he broke bread, you know?
Right.
And my grandparents pitched in. And I see it so many times, like even my pops, he paid almost $800-900 a month at one time for my sister. And it was stressful seeing my dad work all the time to the point where I was living with my grandparents.
Right.
So when I see it like that, yeah, I mean, if he would have had something come back to him, you know, at that time for that, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, it would have helped a lot, and he didn't get it, and he figured it out. So there's men out there that suffer, yeah.
Right.
And there's some women out there that suffer, you know what I mean? There's some out there that the dads do have the kids' blessings, you know what I mean?
Right,
Those are great fathers, you know. My brother Trap City, you know, God rest his soul, you know. It's not allowed, you know. It's like, he always was there for his kids, you know, 6 kids, you know what I mean? And he was always there the best he could. Mom wasn't there. And when she did come around, it was rough.
Right.
You know what I mean? And he was always like us brothers, you know, there's 5 of us, you know, we'd all pitch in together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I feel you.
And, you know, we've seen that because if he would have did it by himself, he would have never, you know, made it. You know, so sometimes we need to look at that side if there's men out there really stepping into that shit and being dads, let them be dads.
Right.
You know, if they pitching in with some money or something, yeah, let them get some of that back, definitely.
Right.
Let them invest that because they're going to keep clothes at the house. Because, I mean, there's plenty of times I used to go to my grandparents with no dang clothes on my back. You know what I mean? But it is what it is. We're kids.
Yeah, nah, that's
But,
real.
I mean, yeah, I don't have kids, but, I mean, seeing it from perspectives of, like, being there for people and just, you know, having fun, you know, watching their kids raise up, you know, niece and nephews and stuff like that.
Right.
You know, each side could have used help. So, I mean, if there is a situation out there like that,
Right.
where one parent's suffering and they trying to do something right, you gotta let them get in.
No, I feel that.
You know,
bro.
co-parenting, that kid gotta get it first.
Facts. If you go half on the baby, then y'all should be able to get half of whatever comes from that baby.
Yeah.
Straight up.
Yeah.
But I feel that.
Like if you can't be around the kids though, or you can't be around the girl because you was wilding and you ain't trying to get right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Bubba.
Yeah.
That's how we say it back home. You know what I mean? I got sisters. You know what I mean? So fuck around, and find out.
Nah, that's real, bro. So before we get up out of here, man, I always end the show with a question pertaining to relationships. So, what are your thoughts on modern day dating and like modern day views of marriage and all that shit that you see on social media? You know what I'm talking about?
I don't really put much out there. I mean, your biggest thing is you want to be happy, right?
Okay.
So for me, I just want to be happy. And if I stay single, or if I'm with somebody, you know, it'd be nice. You know, whichever way, you know, however it needs to be, because that's what it's supposed to be in that stake point.
Right.
But as far as it goes when it comes to that, I mean, people come and go sometimes, and those that come into our lives, you know, the experiences, you know, you don't live in that, you don't dwell in that, you got away from it. And what you're in right now when it comes to it, you know, you just got to be happy on it.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's where I stand on it, you know.
Yeah,
when it comes to
happiness
that.
is
Yeah, I see it on social media, and it sucks, you know what I mean? Friends go through it and stuff. And, you know, I've been there before when I was younger. You know, I'm
Right.
still young, you know, but, you know, I've been through that. You know,
Right.
it sucks. You know, we all were, what they say, when I was a child, I thought as a child, I did as a child. And, you know, when I became a man or you became a woman, you know, you put these things away, or you would hope so. Because, I mean, there's some grown folks out there that act, you know, foolish as heck. But, I mean, for me, I'm about security, you know. I ain't never been a pass round.
I feel that.
I ain't never been a pass around when I was growing up. You know what I mean? I was focused about money. You know what I mean? Focused about family, money, having a good time. And like, so many people would go through all that, you know, arguing, fighting, and, you know, we've all been there. Ain't nobody saints, you know what I mean? But, you know, you just got to figure a way to get it right and keep it right. If you really care for them, if you don't, then let them pass. But if it's really something there, keep on it. You know what I mean? When it comes to that. So many people lose out in life and they don't get to have fun. You know, it sucks traveling places by yourself sometimes.
Yeah.
Most of the time. You know what I mean? I just went up to Boston to see my boys do their thing, and, you know what I mean? Like, I would love to have my lady with me, you know what I mean?
Facts.
But, you know, sometimes we work, you know, we have stuff lined up, you know, we had other plans that we had to do, and, you know, it's okay to go do those things too, because that's what it's about. You don't want to be stuck up each other's butts all the time.
Right.
Because who wants to control what? That's why so many things don't work out.
Right.
You're so stuck up each other sometimes, but you also got to tend to each other, you know?
The AI chicks be scamming men on dates. Don't wanna split the bill cause the word men isn't mean you. But if you really break it down, it say me and you. We a team like the Elohim, my psychology embraced. My prophecy, it started with astrology. Follow me and I'll lead you to the water. But it's on you to drink it and open up your chakras.